Okay, so I'm not staying in order with some of the Bailey School Kid books right now, but it happened to be on the table, and I think it's a book that's coming up in one of the younger grades classes, and I'm donating all the doubles that we had in the house, and we have collected a lot of books as time's gone on, but I know the school can use them, so this way there's extra books to hand out to the students. And not everybody has to share. And if somebody has an IEP, they now have an extra book. But because I was bringing all those books over to the school, I saw this one, Alien Doesn't Wear Braces, and I thought, it's getting to that point for some of our middle schoolers, some of our younger kids now. I didn't realize how young they actually put braces on children now. When I was younger, it was like your awkward years, like your younger teens to high school. That's when you wore braces. Now, they do it, as early as they can, as soon as all the permanent teeth are in and they lose their baby teeth and they straighten them all out. And I'm behooved by this. So yeah, my son's already started asking his dentist when can he go and have braces because he's got some messed up teeth. But so did I for the longest time. It's taken a lot of dental work, but I did not realize how young it was. And so because these kids are reading this book, I thought I'm going to read it too because I don't want anybody to ever be worried about braces. It's not that bad. It hurts a little in the beginning. It's not a lie. No sense in lying about it. You get very used to it. You get chapped lips and chafe the inside of your, lip line and everything. You bite your tongue and stuff, and it pinches things. But as you go on, you learn to, just avoid those things. It's ingrained. But because we're reading this book in the school and we're getting to that age, I want to read this book here. And I think it's adorable. So it's another Bailey School Kids, and it's called Aliens Don't Wear Braces. And we're going to go ahead and start. And this time I'm going to try to remember my glasses because my poor eyeballs hurt the other day. So chapter 1, Power Surge. Howie hung his purple book bag in his third grade classroom at Bailey Elementary School. Did you study for the science test? He asked his friend Eddie. Eddie scratched his curly red hair and dropped his book bag on the floor. Nah, who needs science anyways? I like science, Howie told him, especially when it's about outer space. You would. You have plenty of empty space between your ears, Howie laughed, and headed for his seat. That's kind of mean. The other kids in the class were busy copying math problems from the board. School had not even started, and Mrs. Jeepers, their teacher, already had everyone working. There was something strange about their... Okay, there's something strange, but I don't know if the word about was there. There's something strange. Yeah, about their third grade teacher, Mrs. Jeepers. She was from Transylvania Alps, and some kids thought she was a vampire. Her long hair was the color of a jack-o'-lantern, and a bat's bracelet hung from her wrist. She always wore a huge green brooch, and when she got mad, it glowed. Mrs. Jeepers had a way of flashing her green eyes that made kids think twice about causing trouble. Eddie slid into his seat and tore a piece of paper from his notebook. He was only halfway finished copying the math problems when Mrs. Jeepers spoke in her Transylvanian accent. It is time to take the science test. Please clear off your desk. Melanie's seat was beside Eddie. She twirled one of her black pigtails. I hope I get a good grade, don't you? Carrie was behind Melody. I studied all weekend. I'm sure I'll get the highest grade. Eddie shrugged. Who cares? Eliza, a girl in front of Eddie, turned to look at him. You did study, didn't you? After all, this is a big test. I just hope my nose doesn't start bleeding. When Liza was really upset, her nose usually bled. Too stressful. I'll give you a bloody nose, Eddie kidded, holding up his fist. Melanie glared at Eddie and handed Liza a wad of tissue. Leave Liza alone, or I'll give you a bloody nose. Eddie didn't have time to answer because Mrs. Jeepers put a paper on his desk. There will be no talking, she told the students. You may begin. Eddie looked at the first question. He swallowed hard and looked at the next question. He was searching the second page for something he could answer when he heard a noise. It sounded like someone was playing a low note on a tuba. The hum grew louder and louder until the windows rattled. Melanie slapped her hands over her ears, and Liza whimpered, What is that? Suddenly, all the lights flickered, then went out. Okay. Chapter 2, Missing Teacher. Mrs. Jeepers' eyes flashed at the ceiling. Then she touched her brooch. The green pin glowed mysteriously. The lights flickered again, and then stayed on. "You may continue with your test," she said quietly, still looking at the ceiling. Eddie turned around to talk to Howie. "What's going on?" Howie held his finger to his lip. "Shush," but it was too late. Mrs. Jeepers walked up to Eddie and scooped up his paper. "Talking during tests is not permitted," she said in her strange accent. "You must speak with Principal Davis." Eddie's face turned bright red. "But I wasn't cheating." Mrs. Jeepers touched her green brooch again, and her eyes flashed. Melanie gasped, and Liza closed her eyes. Would Mrs. Jeepers do something terrible to him? Eddie didn't wait to find out. He slid from his desk and stomped out of the room. The principal's office was a wreck. The secretary was pushing buttons and yelling into the intercom system for the art teacher, while a second-grade teacher was talking with Principal Davis. 28 second graders wandered around the office, pulling stuff off the secretary's shelf and playing tag with each other. Eddie plopped into a chair to watch the excitement. A tall woman with long white hair sat next to him. She wore a white shirt with big silver buttons, black leggings, and black boots that came up above her knees. Her face was long and thin, and whiter than chalk dust. She smiled at him, showing a mouth full of metal braces. "You're too old to have braces," Eddie blurted out. The woman shrugged. "What makes you think I'm old?" "You have white hair," Eddie told her. The tall woman smiled again. "My hair may not be the delightful color of Jupiter like yours, but where I come from, some people think I look young, and people are never too old to wear braces." Then she looked at Principal Davis. "Are you waiting to see the principal?" Eddie asked her. "Because if you are, it might be a while. This place is a zoo." "It is." The tall woman frowned and looked around the room. "There are no animals here," she said. "I don't mean a real zoo," Eddie started to explain. "It does not matter," the strange woman interrupted and pulled some paper out of her briefcase. "I will not have to wait much longer." Okay, let's see. This is what the picture looks like. And there are kids on the floor, and the secretary's losing her mind. She can't get it together. The second grade teacher was still talking to Principal Davis. "But my students are supposed to have art now," she was saying. Where could the art teacher be?" Principal Davis shook his head. "Mr. Gibson's car is in the parking lot, and I saw him earlier this morning. He must be somewhere. First, there was that electric power surge, and now the art teacher is missing. If only there was a substitute teacher who could teach the class." The lady winked at Eddie before she walked up to Principal Davis and handed him her papers. "Hello, my name is Miss Zork. I am looking for a teaching job." Principal Davis' mouth dropped open as he looked at Mrs. Zork's papers. "Can you teach art?" "Art is my specialty," she said. "As a matter of fact, where I come from, my pottery is displayed in the Capitol." Principal Davis grinned and gestured to the kids running circles around the desk. "They're all yours, Mrs. Zork." As soon as the tall woman left with the children, Principal Davis looked at his secretary. "That was lucky." Eddie watched the tall woman walk down the hall and whisper, "I think it's creepy." Ooh. Chapter 3. Ms. Zork. When Eddie got back from the principal's office, his class was lining up for art. "Did you get in trouble?" Howie asked softly. "Nah, Principal Davis was too busy chasing second graders," Eddie told him. "Those flickering lights were weird," Howie whispered to Eddie. "Even Mrs. Jeepers thought so." "Speaking of weird, you should see the new art teacher," Eddie said. "New art teacher? What happened to Mr. Gibson?" Liza asked. Eddie shrugged. "No one knows, not even Principal Davis." "You're lying," Melanie said. "Teachers don't just disappear." "They do at Bailey Elementary," Eddie snapped. "What's strange about this new art teacher?" Howie interrupted. "For one thing, she looks like she flew into a bag of flour," Eddie told them. "Her face is so white, I bet her blood has been sucked dry by Count Dracula." That's a very odd statement, considering the fact that your teacher might be a vampire. Just saying. Maybe Mrs. Jeepers got her, Melanie giggled. "I think Eddie's extravagant, Liza told her. "You'll find out when you see her," Eddie told his friends as they left their classroom. "I beg your pardon," Mrs. Jeepers said when she opened the art door. "I am looking for Mr. Gibson." The tall woman smiled at the class. The kids stared at her white face in silver braces. "I am the substitute, Mrs. Zork." Mrs. Jeepers flashed her eyes. "But I'm certain I saw Mr. Gibson this morning. He did not say anything about leaving." "Maybe he's sick," Liza blurted. Mrs. Zork spoke so softly they had to strain to hear. Mr. Gibson had to leave unexpectedly. Mrs. Jeepers nodded. I'm sure no one will give Mrs. Zork any problems. She looked straight at Eddie before she left. The kids sat down at the paint-stained tables. I'm pleased to visit your school, Mrs. Zork told them. I look forward to learning much from you. Don't you mean that we're going to learn from you, Carrie asked. But of course, Mrs. Zork said softly. We shall begin by having a pottery lesson. But what about the totem poles we were making? Liza asked. Totem poles? Mrs. Zorks asked. I know nothing about totem poles, but I am quite the expert at throwing clay pots. Eddie laughed. I'm good at throwing stuff, too. Mrs. Zork flashed her braces at Eddie. Then you may be the first to demonstrate. Before Eddie could complain, Mrs. Zork grabbed his hand and plopped a big blob of clay in front of him. The clay was on a small table. Mrs. Zork pushed the button with her foot, and the table began to whirl. Miss Zork held Eddie's hand in the clay, and together they began forming a pot. That's neat, Liza said. May I try? Certainly. Mrs. Zork let go of Eddie's hands. Eddie quickly slipped away from the table, and Liza took his place. Liza pressed hard on the clay blob as the table whirled around. I can't get it right, she complained. Yours looks like a hamburger, Carrie said. Looks more like a flying saucer to me, Howie giggled. Do you mean an interplanetary transportation system, Mrs. Zork asked. Oh. Howie nodded. I know all about spaceships. My dad works at the Federal Aeronautic Technology Station, and he has all kinds of books about space. Mrs. Zork's braces seemed to glow when she smiled at Howie. That is very interesting information. Facts is where all the space nerds work, Eddie murmured, flinking little blobs of clay across the room. This is messy, Liza interrupted. Her hands were covered with slimy gray clay. Melanie laughed. That's because you're all thumbs. Mrs. Zork's braces sparked as she grabbed Liza's hand. This child is not all thumbs, she said softly. Her hands are just as human hands should be. All the kids laughed. Quit laughing at me, Liza stammered. Don't get upset, Melanie told her friend. Your nose will start bleeding. But it was too late. Liza pulled a tissue from her pocket to stop the bleeding. What happened, Mrs. Zork asked. What's that red stuff? My nose is bleeding, Liza told her, and showed her the tissue. Mrs. Zork jumped back and looked at the blood-spattered table. Oh, my goodness. We must get you to the nurse right away. The kids watched Mrs. Zork take Liza from the room. She acted like she'd never seen blood before, Howie whispered. At least not red blood, Melanie said. Zing! A gray blob flew past Howie's head and splattered against the concrete wall. What was that? Howie yelped. I just made one of your famous flying saucers, Eddie laughed. Then he snatched another glob of clay. I can make more, too. Howie grabbed the clay. Give me that! This is our chance to have some fun, Eddie said, taking a green paint can off of the shelf. Let's spray paint the windows while Mrs. Zork is gone. Eddie squirted a white blob of paint on the nearest window. Hey, somebody scratched the labels. This is supposed to be green. Howie grabbed the can from Eddie. Quit that, you moron. This is our chance to find out what happened to Mr. Gibson. What do you think you'll find? Eddie laughed. A tied-up art teacher in the filing cabinet? Of course not, Melanie interrupted. But we might find a clue. With that, the three children started peeping in the cupboards and boxes. The rest of the third graders were busy making clay pots. Melanie pointed to Mrs. Zork's open briefcase. Look at this. It's just an old newspaper, Eddie said. Melanie nodded. It's a 10-year-old article about an alien spacecraft. Maybe she collected old newspapers to line her birdcage with, Eddie said. Then how do you explain this, Howie asked as he pulled another paper from the briefcase. Easy, Eddie said. It's a map. You can line a birdcage with those, too. That's not any map, Melanie said. It's a star map. Howie nodded, and someone's charted a course on it. Some kids are probably playing connect the dots with the stars, Eddie laughed. Maybe, Howie said, or maybe somebody was making travel plans. That's silly, Melanie giggled. Nobody travels in space. Nobody, Howie said softly, except aliens.